Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well, and let's get into it. Currently, I am on the Kanye West Twitter feed, and if you guys did not know, yesterday, Kanye just pretty much had a total Twitter meltdown. And not exactly sure where it's going to go from here, or if this is completely done developing. I assume that that's most likely not the case. This is probably not going to be the last we hear of Kanye v. Drake. But if you guys remember, earlier this year, around the summertime, Kanye and Drake and Pusha T were in the midst of a bit of a beef over some bars that Pusha T dropped off his latest full-length album. That kind of put Drake in a position where he responded with a diss track. Then Pusha T came back with a song that was really cutthroat, not only in terms of just its performance, but also just the information that Push brought to the table that exposed Drake. And just brought up a lot of personal information that I don't think Drake wanted in the greater sphere, public sphere. And it was a mess. It did not look good for Drake at that moment. Obviously, Drake's fans, they don't care if he has ghostwriters. They don't care if he has a kid. All they really care about at the end of the day, they don't really care if he's authentic either. All they really want for him is to continue making music that they think is catchy, that they think is enjoyable. And for that reason, Drake is never going to be put in a position where he's out of a job as a result of Pusha T, as a result of a diss track or something like that. Drake just needs to, keep coming out with those buttery pop rap hits. And he'll be fine. He'll be totally fine. But still, that doesn't change the fact that I do think as a result of the beef, Drake may have lost out on some opportunities, or it at least might have hurt his public image, or it just kind of created a whole sort of mountain of drama that I don't think he wanted to deal with. And I don't really blame Drake for, of course, probably still being pissed at Pusha T, but also being mad at Kanye too. Even though Kanye didn't literally make the diss track that exposed Drake, he did take part in Infrared. He didn't say to Pusha, hey, you know what I mean? Like, I'm producing this, and I know you have like some beef with Wayne and Baby, and that sort of extends to Drake a little bit, and you don't like that he used ghostwriters and so on and so forth, and you have all these opinions, but I don't know if it would look good on me to sort of take part in this track where you're saying this stuff, which I think is a reasonable reaction to have for Drake, especially considering everything Drake put out there in the open when he had that sit-down, fake shot barbershop conversation with LeBron, where he was talking about, I went to meet up with Kanye and we were working together on tracks, and I told him about my son, and I didn't end up getting anything out of it, and I sort of went through that experience, and then to see that he is working with Pusha on a track that puts me down, I mean, that doesn't feel very good, that's not a very good feeling. I can't imagine why Kanye doesn't get that this is not something that he can just jump on the internet after Pusha T dropped that track, Story of Adidon. You can't just drop on the internet a tweet where you're like, the beef is over, and just have Drake like feeling good and feeling okay, and just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm cool with that guy. Because, you've kind of opened the floodgates a little bit. And I feel like Kanye is not, golden rule here, he's not treating others how he would like to be treated, is really what it comes down to. And given Kanye's very erratic mental state, and look, I'm not making fun of the guy, I'm not hating on the guy, mental problems are mental problems, and obviously need to be taken seriously. But I am curious as to whether or not Kanye's mental state even, is it preventing him from realizing that he's treating people in a way that he would not like to be treated? Because his personality type doesn't allow him to deal with his flaws, deal with his mistakes, in an honest and an open way. I mean, Kanye is obviously not a person who's all bad. There are clearly situations in the past where he has been able to do that. But in this situation, I'm not sure if maybe at this point he can or if he will ever be ready to. But let's get through some of what he's kind of going on about here, as we're 5 minutes into this video already. So this is kind of what sparked all of it, this bottom tweet here. We basically have Kanye receiving a text message with Drake's team asking for clearance on a song. This song, Say What's Real. This track, Say What's Real, comes from like one of Drake's super early breakthrough mixtapes, I think So Far Gone. And the beat he uses on this track is a Kanye beat. And he wants clearance to, I guess, release this song commercially. Most likely because he's probably going to drop the whole tape, you know what I mean, as like a commercial venture, something to sell, something to print, something to put on streaming services, because, I mean, it is a pretty groundbreaking moment for Drake. You know, maybe there's like an anniversary edition of the mixtape coming out or something, you know what I mean? So he's looking for clearance on this song where he used somebody else's beat, which was just kind of like the situation that he was in at the time when he was, you know, still a mixtape rapper. And Kanye says, this shit proves faker. This proves shit faker than wrestling. Now Kanye's saying that, oh, well, Drake is mad at me. He's upset with me over all this stuff, and this drama is still kind of going on quietly behind the scenes. And if he wasn't still mad at me, or if this beef was actually real, he wouldn't be asking for clearance. And I don't see the reasoning there, because he's not reaching out because he's your buddy. He's not reaching out to you know, ask how you are. It's a business related question. You're in the music business. You have to anticipate that. I mean, with the upper echelons of hip hop being as small as they are, when you diss or have an awkward situation with a guy like Drake, because of stuff like clearance, you're probably gonna run into the guy every once in a while or hear from him. You can't completely avoid the dude, just because you have a bit of a brush with him because he needs permission on a song to release it from one of his early mixtapes doesn't mean that the beef isn't real, doesn't mean that he's not actually unhappy, or that he's not still in a moment where he's still kind of heated because of what went down. I think Drake is fully in the right to still be kind of pissed over this whole situation. I don't think you can really kind of take Drake's legitimate anger away from him. I think it's actually like a little unempathetic to deny Drake his right to be unhappy about what you kind of took part in, you know, through Pusha T, through Infrared. And yes, Kanye has said, I didn't tell Pusha T about your son, and so on and so forth. Pusha T, I think the last time he commented on it, he claimed that 40, Drake's producer, his right-hand man, 40, told him about Drake's son, which, I mean, nobody necessarily came out and refuted that. If I'm wrong, you know, please do throw something up on the screen that contradicts me. But I don't believe anybody came directly out and contradicted that. But if that wasn't true, that would be really easy for Drake to verify behind the scenes. Kanye says, still need that apology for mentioning the 350s and trying to take food out your idol's kids' mouths. Kanye is referring to a bar that Drake dropped on a French Montana song. He doesn't want anybody or somebody wearing the 350s around him, he said on the track, which, I mean, I heard the diss, I heard the, you know, the subtle mention or whatever, and it's not like a full-on attack. It's not like he's tearing you down. It's not like he's really taking money out of his idol's mouth and so on and so forth. Like, I get that you very much inspired Drake's style, but like, it's just kind of a cheeky line put out by Drake during a time where, yeah, it's pretty clear that he should and would still be pissed after everything that happened, because even though he just came out on the internet and said, oh, the beef's over, the beef's over, and just because Drake didn't continue to go at Pusha T because he saw that he would be giving Push more attention, he would make the beef bigger than it really needs to be. He could potentially be exposed even further if Drake has some kind of like inside baseball on him that he hasn't released yet, which he might even have had. I think it was smart ultimately for Drake not to continue to feed into that beef, but that doesn't mean that Drake isn't still pissed. Just because Drake made the smart business decision to not continue fanning the flames of that whole situation does not mean that he's not still pissed. And does not mean that he's not still allowed to be pissed. So, been trying to meet you for 6 months, bro. You sneak dissing on Trav Records and texting Chris, talking about how's the family. I mean, you know, maybe he's legitimately curious. Maybe he's just kind of like, it could be a situation where, you know, you have two members of the family who are mad at each other for legitimate reasons, but you still know other people who are sort of on the other side of that line that you've drawn, and you don't want to cut off ties with those people forever. You know, that doesn't mean that Drake isn't really mad at you. It doesn't mean that the shit's fake. It doesn't mean that that he can't really still be pissed, you know. But let's keep going. I told you I tell Push about your son. It's all love, bro, but don't play with me. You stay too close to be playing all these industry games, bro. Okay, dude. Like, it really does annoy me to hear Kanye just be like, it's all about love, man. It's all the love, dude. It's the love, man. It's really the love. Where was the love when you were behind the scenes on Infrared? You know, where was the love when you could have been guiding the Pusha T situation into a more sane, less destructive direction? Where was the love then? I mean, I get Pusha T. He is a man with his own agency and makes his own choices. But, dude, you're clearly there. You're clearly involved in that situation or very closely connected to it. And Drake is rightfully unhappy about these, I guess, cursory impacts that you could or are having negatively on these situations that are affecting Drake in a huge way, in a very bad way. I mean, yes, we cannot blame Kanye for literally recording that exposure track on Drake himself, but it's still a situation that you're connected to, that Drake sort of sees as something that he's still unhappy with. Yeah, Drake's probably still not talking to Pusha either. He's avoiding you because he's pissed. I've never heard none of the diss records. I never even heard none of the diss records. That at my MO never did a diss record. Well, I mean, you did sort of take part pretty deeply in the new Pusha T record. If we're to understand and believe that you just handed Pusha the beats and you didn't know about anything having to do with anything from there, it's still not a very good look. Never did a diss record. Let me verify here, and I already know that this is the case, but still, let me verify here that Pusha T's new record, yes, Daytona, which Infrared is on, came out on Kanye's label. It's on Good Music. And yes, Pusha T is kind of officially the president of Good Music at the moment. But again, I don't think that completely absolving himself from Infrared at this point is really possible. It's your beat. He's your right-hand dude. It's your label. You can't sit here and act like you had nothing to do with it. You know? Like, whether it's because you intentionally sent these messages out to create drama, which Kanye didn't even seem against the drama before it got so hot that he was like, well, okay, it's over. The beef is over. You know, you could have come out right after Infrared and said, you know what? No. You know, this beef is over. But no, you waited until Pusha T exposed Drake in the worst possible way to say, okay, it's done now. It's done. It's done. We don't want you to respond and do something to us. It's done now. Now that we've hurt you in the worst possible way, now it's done. Come on, man. So either Kanye did, in fact, intentionally take part in sort of sending out that initial shot that sort of, you know, lit everything up to begin with, or this passed by Kanye through sheer negligence, which I think is also something that you could, if you're in Drake's position, be kind of pissed about. You know, it's either intentionally hurting or it's massive negligence, both of which are bad. And again, look, I reviewed those diss tracks. I enjoyed those diss tracks as somebody who is a consumer and watching it all go down. It was entertaining, but I can at least empathize with Drake's position and see that, yeah, he's going to be pissed off. He's not going to be happy about it. So then we have Kanye posting verses from the Bible. I think this is like obviously some kind of religious text. Suffering as a Christian. Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you, but rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. Well, I think it's pretty funny, again, given Kanye's inability to follow the golden rule, that he would be citing, Christian text here. But again, I think that him sort of like pulling this particular bit of text out is also indicative of how Drake's games, the long mental game that Drake is playing, as opposed to the short term that he could have done instead, maybe having a larger negative effect on Kanye than just kind of like meeting him head on in the battlefield. Because if Kanye sort of sees Drake's subtle manipulations around him as like a trial sent down by God, I mean, that's pretty indicative of how Drake is messing with his head right now, or how paranoid he might be feeling in the moment. Because is Kanye even capable at this point of accurately assessing how much Drake is messing with him or Pusha in the moment? Is Drake at his house moving his bed 2 inches to the right so that when Kanye wakes up in the morning, he stubs his toe on the bedpost and he's like, Drake, he did it again. Drake finally called. Mission accomplished. By the way, not cleared. Why would you not clear the song? If everything's cool and it's all about love and, you're going to end up making money off the track anyway if you approve it. You're going to get part of probably the publishing or something on it because it's your beat. If it's all about love and it's all about being cool, then why are you not acting cool? Why can't you clear the song? Why can't you be chill? But then it goes on. So, mission accomplished, not cleared. Drake finally called. Seems like we're potentially at a moment of resolution, but then there's like a 5-hour gap here where, he's retweeted this tweet about Kim, and it seems like everything, I guess, is chill. But then, trust God, Drake called trying to threaten me. So Drake called back, I guess. Threatened me. Drake called trying to threaten me. The kid he had run on stage at Pusha's concert is in critical condition, which, Drake might have had some part in. Also, you're talking about Pusha T performing in Drake's city. Now, if you guys aren't aware, Pusha T did have a concert in Toronto where he was, people threw beer at him. Someone rushed the stage. It was kind of a messed up situation. But considering the diss he threw at Drake, and you're performing in the man's city, I would have anticipated something would have gone down. It's something that honestly, if I was in Pusha's position, I would have avoided that place or made sure that I had extra, double, quadruple, triple security on that day to make sure that nothing at all happened, because you're in Drake's city. So Drake, if anything happens to me or anyone from my family, you are the first suspect. So cut the tough talk. It just doesn't sit right on my spirit. I got a family and kids. 6ix9ine's locked up. XXXTentacion is dead. That kid that ran on stage is in the hospital. I don't get what 6ix9ine and X have directly to do with this. When Cudi was in the hospital, he sent shots. Yes. In fact, there was talk of Kanye sort of getting involved in the diss track or taking part in it, because Drake, he did throw some shots at Cudi when Cudi was at a low point. And there were a lot of people who who sort of saw that as like, oh, well, it was a little justified because Drake was being a heartless bastard, rapping about Cudi when he was sick and so on and so forth. You know, you can't say that Pusha T rapping about 40 being sick is bad. Drake was attacking Cudi when he was in the hospital and so on and so forth. I mean, sure, okay, you know, you can rationalize it that way, but that doesn't mean that there's not still going to be a response. That doesn't mean that there's not still repercussions for beefing. You know, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden everybody's supposed to drop everything and it's just over and nobody's mad anymore the moment you say go. When I go through shit, he fucks with me and I'm his idol. Well, you know, I think at one point you definitely were Drake's idol, and you obviously had a huge inspiration on him through, you know, records like Graduation, through records like 808s and everything. But, you know, it's been years since I think Drake has really been in a position where artistically he's looking up to you. Culturally, and as far as like sheer numbers goes with records, he's doing more than you. And, you know, the saying is true. As the saying goes, your idols become your rivals. They do. Ye never been easy. I navigated these waters before you. That's why you could be you. I mean, that's true. I do think that's true. You know, Drake is allowed to be the somewhat forward-thinking and sensitive guy that he is at the top of the hip-hop game because Kanye kind of made that okay. He did make that acceptable. There's a lot of stuff in rap today. As regressive as some people do kind of see the politics of hip-hop to be, there's a lot of stuff in the culture and in the industry currently that would not be acceptable at all had Kanye not taken the flack for it in the 2000s. How are you going to be going on Trav's song Coming At Me? Trav should have never allowed that. Well, I mean, come on, man. This is literally Kanye applying a double standard to how other people should be acting, but not applying that to himself. Okay, so Kanye, the same rules don't apply to him, which, you know, is obviously what gives Kanye his energy, his way of looking at the world, his creative freedom. Kanye puts no limitations on himself, but he wants to put those limitations on everybody else. This is for no one's entertainment, but, you know, you're still like making it a crazy situation, you know, by coming out onto Twitter and talking about it. Because obviously Kanye knows people who know Drake. Drake knows people who know Kanye. They could easily be sending these messages back and forth through people behind the scenes, but instead Kanye is going on Twitter and making a fiasco of all of this, which I don't think is going to give Kanye the result that he wants. These tweets are not emotional. This is a man speaking to a man that has been placed in the program. This is kind of a level of paranoia that does worry me. This year has been really tough, and you have added to the confusion. I'm not really sure what Kanye is saying here about a false runner in the beat. Obviously, that is referring back to sort of the original Clearance. I don't know if there's something about the way that Drake essentially approached Kanye for Clearance, if it's through somebody he wasn't familiar with, or if he would rather Drake just ask him personally or whatever. I'm not sure if there's something about sort of how the situation was initiated that Kanye sort of sees as really fishy or bad. Maybe it's somehow counter to how these things are typically dealt with. I would never mention your blank, assuming son. Kanye essentially, I think what I could really say here is Kanye is trying to gaslight Drake is really what's happening here, because he wants to basically yell a lie at Drake, whether it's an intentional lie or whether it's just Kanye really doesn't see the situation for what it is, and he is just hoping that Drake changes his mind through sheer suggestion. He's just saying, this is not what you see with your eyes. Don't believe your lying eyes. What you think the situation is what it's not. I'm just telling you. Even as an outsider, it does not seem the way that Kanye is saying it is. And then he's like hanging out at JP Morgan Chase. The social commentary that I could potentially make off of this, I'm not even going to get into right now. So that is really, wow. That's really all I have to say about all that. I'm legitimately worried for Kanye at this point. This is not very good. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. I think if Drake should do anything in this situation, it's understand that, hey, maybe Kanye doesn't know how to interpret or handle the situation. Not to, baby Kanye or infantilized Kanye, but clearly as a result of a lot of what he's dealing with, he's not in the best place where he can kind of like filter through all of what Drake might be doing to, very, very lightly terrorize him in a way. Kanye's obviously an adult guy who's responsible for his decisions and everything, but this is still kind of a tough situation that I don't think is the best for either of them. And again, while I do understand that Drake is probably still pissed and everything, I do think it is smarter of Drake to, actually walk the walk in terms of what he was saying in that barbershop conversation. I didn't respond. Instead, I put that energy in my own record and so on and so forth. Because, even if you're not dissing Kanye or Pusha T directly, doing little things on the outskirts to mess with them, it's still wasted energy. It's still wasted energy. And would most likely just be better spent doing your own thing, investing in your own stuff, and making your own work better and popular and more successful and so on and so forth. So I'm going to leave it at that. This has been a long rant, but over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. You can hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Drake, Kanye, Pusha T, Twitter meltdowns, forever.